The first thing I noticed was the smell. Not perfume. Lena always wore something expensive enough to make a stranger feel underdressed, but a second layer underneath it, like cold metal and citrus, the kind of scent you pick up when you've been somewhere you weren't supposed to be. It clung to the hollow at her throat, right where my mouth used to land without thinking. "Stop staring," she murmured as she pinned her hair up in the mirror. I wasn't staring. I was inventorying. There's a difference. Staring is what you do when you're in love. Inventory is what you do when you suspect something in your life has been switched out for a cheaper part and you're about to find out which bolt is going to snap first. She wore a black dress that made her look like she belonged in a room full of crystal and soft lighting. I wore my work suit, which meant I looked like I belonged near the doors, which technically I did. The Greyhaven Hotel didn't do parties, it did performances. Tonight was the Winter Light Gala, the big charity showpiece that kept the old money donors smiling and the board's ego fed through the long, bitter coastal winter. The lobby was already breathing that familiar mixture of champagne, money, and desperation, the kind of air you could chew. Lena checked her phone. The screen lit her face for half a second, and in that half second, I saw something flash behind her expression. Panic or excitement, or the little spark people get when they're about to do something they've been rehearsing. "You're not going to embarrass me tonight," she said, like it was a joke. Like it was normal to say that to your husband right before a gala where you plan to play the perfect wife. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I gave her my mildest smile, the one that made people feel safe. I'd learned it in maintenance, where you can't afford to look angry when you tell someone their boiler is about to explode. "Embarrass you?" I said. "I'm a walking beige sweater. The worst I can do is bore someone into a coma." She laughed, too loud, too quick, performative. It didn't reach her eyes. In the car, she kept scrolling. Thumb, flick, flick, flick. Her nails were freshly done, a pale shade that looked innocent until you imagined them digging into someone else's shoulder. Her wedding ring flashed under the dashboard light. Mine felt heavier than usual. Greyhaven at night looked like a postcard someone had started to burn at the edges. The harbor lights winked through the fog. The old hotel rose up ahead like a well-dressed predator, all stone and polished brass, smiling at the ocean like it owned it. I parked in staff lot because I was staff even on nights I wasn't. Lena insisted on valet for herself. Optics. Always optics. At the service entrance, Eli Mercer was leaning against a cart of linen, sipping coffee like it was the only thing keeping him from quitting life. Eli did our security installs. Legit ones. Cameras, locks, access control. No spy movie nonsense. The kind of guy who'd tell you to your face that if you wanted illegal, you should call someone else, and then he'd walk away. He nodded at me. "Big night." "Big headache," I said. His eyes flicked past me to Lena in her black dress. "She looks gala-ready." Lena smiled like she'd just been complimented by the sun. "Thank you, Eli." Eli's smile didn't move much. "You too, Owen." That was the weird part. He didn't just say it to be polite. He said it like he meant it, like he'd noticed something and didn't like it, like he was trying to hand me a warning without actually putting it into words. I tucked that away. Inside, the hotel was humming. Staff moved like they were part of a choreography. Servers with trays, security with earpieces, my own maintenance guys in black polos slipping through side corridors. The donors arrived wearing winter coats that cost more than my first car, shedding them like they were molting into their true forms. My radio crackled once. Habit made my hand go to it, even though I wasn't on shift. Lena's fingers hooked around my arm as we walked into the lobby. To anyone watching, we were a couple, polished, paired, intact. I could almost believe it if I didn't know the way her grip tightened whenever she glanced at her phone. The ballroom doors stood open. Light spilled out like warm water. Music floated above the crowd, string quartet smoothing the air into something rich. And then the real show started. The first thing you learn working a place like Greyhaven is that there are two parties at every party. The one people pretend they're at, and the one they're actually at. The actual party is in the looks, the whispers, the hands lingering where they shouldn't. It's in who avoids who, and who can't stop looking across the room. Lena spotted her friends immediately. Tessa and Bryn, both in dresses that looked like they were designed to be photographed more than worn. They waved like they were summoning Lena into the center of a little sun system. "Come on," Lena said. "Don't be weird." "I'm never weird," I said. "I'm famously predictable." She didn't laugh that time. We drifted into the crowd. People nodded at me with the polite recognition reserved for the guy who keeps their toilets flushing and their power stable. Donors smiled like I was part of the decor. I returned smiles, filed names, kept my posture open. It's amazing what you can do in life if you learn how to look harmless. Then I saw Mara. Lena's sister didn't belong to Greyhaven's donor ecosystem, not really. She was too sharp around the edges, like she'd been carved with a more honest tool. She wore a dark green dress, simple, no glitter, no performance. Her hair was down, her eyes were up. She watched the room like she was counting exits. When she spotted me, she raised her glass just slightly, not a greeting, more like acknowledgement. Lena didn't see her yet, or pretended she didn't. We made it to Lena's friend circle. The women kissed cheeks, made noises, held each other's arms, and laughed at nothing. Bryn's phone was already up, filming. "Lena," Tessa squealed. "You look insane." Lena preened. "Do I?" "Like, dangerous," Bryn said. "Like you could ruin a man." Tessa's eyes flicked to me. "Careful," she said, smiling sweetly. "She might." I lifted my drink in a toast. "To ruin," I said. "May it be tasteful." They laughed. Lena's laugh was the loudest. Again. The photographer drifted by. Flash, smiles. Lena's hand went to my chest for the photo and stayed there a beat too long, like she was reminding the room she owned me. Then the MC called for attention. The gala's official welcome. Donors drifted toward the front. The room shifted. Lena leaned in close to my ear. "Stay near me tonight," she said. It sounded like a request. It wasn't. It was a command shaped like intimacy. We moved toward the side seating area where the hotel placed key couples for visibility. We weren't key. Lena had simply decided we were. Mara appeared like she'd been waiting for that moment. She slid into the empty chair on my other side with the casual confidence of someone who didn't ask permission from rooms like this. "Hey," Mara said softly. "Hey," I said back. Lena's face tightened for half a second, then smoothed itself into a smile. "Mara, you came." Mara's mouth curved. "I always come when there's something to watch." Lena's smile twitched, like it didn't know where to land. The MC started talking about community and legacy and generosity. The words floated over us like decorative smoke. Lena tilted her champagne flute and leaned back as if she was settling into her throne. She looked at her friends. She looked at the room. She looked at herself, reflected in a mirror panel behind the bar. Then she said it. At the party, my wife said, "Tonight I'm single." The words weren't shouted. They didn't need to be. They were sharp enough to cut through the music and the low chatter of the crowd around us. People closest turned their heads. Tessa's eyes went wide, thrilled. Bryn's phone angled slightly, hungry for a clip. For a split second, I wondered if I'd misheard her, if it was some stupid joke, some TikTok trend, some "look how wild I am" line designed to earn a laugh. But Lena's eyes didn't go to me. They went across the room, and that's when I understood it wasn't for me. It was for someone else. Her attractive sister smirked. "So I'm with you tonight." Mara didn't raise her voice either. She didn't even look at Lena when she said it. She looked right at me, like she was placing a chess piece and waiting to see if the board noticed. Then she did exactly what she said she would. She shifted her chair closer. Her thigh touched mine. She set her hand on the armrest between us like it belonged there. A small, deliberate invasion of Lena's carefully staged spotlight. Mara sat beside me. Lena's laugh came out a second late. "Oh my God," Lena said, forcing it into something breezy. "Mara, don't be dramatic. I'm kidding." Her voice was bright. Her eyes were not. Because across the room, near the bar, half hidden by a column and a cluster of donors, stood Gideon Knox. He didn't look like a villain. Villains never do in places like this. He looked like a man who wore confidence the way other people wore coats. 40-something, perfectly cut suit, hair that didn't dare misbehave. A donor leaned in to talk to him, and Gideon listened like he was granting them a favor. And then his gaze slid to Lena. Lena's mouth curved, just slightly, the way it does when a person gets a message they've been waiting for. Gideon's lips did the same. I felt my wedding ring bite my skin. Mara leaned in, close enough that her perfume, clean, herbal, pushed aside Lena's metallic citrus layer. "That wasn't a joke," Mara murmured without moving her smile. "She's been practicing." My eyes stayed on Gideon. "Practicing what?" I asked, just as quietly. Mara's fingers tightened on the armrest. "Tonight, the single line, the laugh after, the way she looks across the room like she's waiting for approval." I let out a soft breath that could have been a chuckle if anyone was watching. "Oh," I said, "so I'm not her husband tonight. I'm her prop." Mara's smile didn't fade. "You're the only one in this room not pretending." I wanted to make a joke then. Something sharp and sarcastic that would let me stay myself. Something like, "Congratulations, Lena, you're single. Should I send the divorce papers with the dessert course?" But the truth sat heavier than humor, because Lena's laugh was still too loud. Her friends were still watching, and Gideon Knox, across the room, lifted his glass slightly in Lena's direction like they were sharing a private toast. I turned my head just enough to look at my wife. She met my eyes for the first time since she'd said it. There it was, just under the surface, a flicker of fear that I'd react wrong, that I'd make a scene, that I'd ruin her performance. I smiled, the mild, harmless maintenance guy smile, and inside my head, something clicked into place with a calm, mechanical certainty. I didn't confront her. I didn't beg. I didn't do anything dramatic. Because inventory comes before demolition. Lena leaned in, nails grazing my sleeve. "Don't," she whispered, voice suddenly tight. "Not here." "Don't what?" I asked softly. Her eyes darted fast to Gideon, then back to me. "Just don't," she said again. I nodded like a good prop. Across the ballroom, Gideon Knox's phone lit up in his hand. He glanced down, then up, straight at me, and he smiled like he already knew what Lena had just tried to warn me not to do. I stayed seated. That alone seemed to confuse her. Lena expected a reaction, a sharp word, a wounded look, maybe a public stumble she could later reframe as proof I'd always been too sensitive. When none of that arrived, her smile started to slip at the corners, like makeup under bad lighting. Mara crossed her legs slowly, deliberately, and leaned back. If Lena wanted a performance, her sister was happy to help direct it. The MC finished the welcome speech. Applause rippled through the room. Music swelled. The party resumed its careful chaos. Lena stood abruptly. "I need to check on something," she said, already halfway turned. "Of course," I said. "You're very busy tonight." She hesitated, just a fraction. Her eyes searched my face, trying to find the crack. Finding none made her uncomfortable in a way she couldn't name. She walked away without touching me. Mara watched her go. "You know she's going to say you didn't take a joke," she said. "That you're sulking, that you embarrassed her by not playing along." "I'm devastated," I said. I was really looking forward to my role as confused husband number 3 in her anecdote. Mara snorted softly. Then she sobered. She didn't expect you to stay. I work here, I said. Leaving early would have been rude. That earned a real smile from her. Across the room, Gideon Knox moved. Not toward Lena. Not yet. He circled, slow and patient, stopping to greet donors, accepting compliments like they were tips. He knew timing. He knew optics. He knew how to wait. A server passed with a tray. I took a glass of water instead of champagne. My head felt too clear for alcohol. Do you want me to say something? Mara asked quietly. No, I said. If you do, she'll turn it into sister jealousy, or a joke gone wrong, or you being dramatic. And if I don't? Then it keeps being exactly what it is. She studied me, eyes sharp. You're calm. I'm furious, I said. I'm just fluent in waiting. Her phone buzzed on the table between us. She glanced down, then turned the screen slightly toward me without asking. A group chat, Lena at the top, Tessa and Bryn underneath. Tessa. Did you just hear her? Bryn. Iconic. Tessa. Poor Owen. Though Lena, he's fine. He knows it's a joke. Bryn. Gideon's here. BTW Mara locked the screen. That was 3 minutes ago. Efficient, I said. My radio buzzed at my hip. I silenced it without looking. Old habit again. Muscle memory from a life where problems stayed mechanical. I noticed something else then. A detail so small it would have slipped past anyone not trained to see systems instead of surfaces. Lena's phone wasn't in her hand. She never went anywhere without it, not even the bathroom, especially not the bathroom. I scanned the room again. There, near the side corridor that led toward the executive elevators, Gideon had paused. Lena stood beside him now, angled away from the crowd, laughing too softly. His hand rested on the small of her back, not possessive, just practiced. A gesture you don't try for the first time in public. Her phone was in his hand. He showed her something on the screen. She leaned in. Her laugh broke into something breathless, private. I felt a pressure behind my eyes, sharp and distant, like a headache forming its opinion. Mara followed my gaze. Her jaw tightened. She promised me she'd stop, she said, after Thanksgiving. People don't stop, I said. They optimize. Gideon slipped the phone back to Lena. She nodded once, then peeled away from him and headed toward the restroom corridor, smoothing her dress like she'd just finished a meeting. Gideon turned. This time, he didn't pretend not to see me. Our eyes met across the ballroom. He raised his glass slightly. A private salute. Acknowledgement without apology. I returned the gesture with my water. Mara exhaled slowly. That's him, isn't it? Yes, I said. And he's very comfortable. Because she told him you're harmless. I smiled faintly. I am, as long as nobody keeps pushing. Mara's phone buzzed again. She didn't look at it this time. You should leave, she said, before she does something worse. I shook my head. No, tonight's not about stopping her. Then what is it about? I watched Gideon as he laughed with a donor, perfectly at ease. Understanding the machine. Mara tilted her head. You talk like someone who's already made a decision. I've made a process, I said. Decisions come later. A familiar voice cut through the noise. Owen. Janet Crowell stood a few steps away, clipboard tucked under her arm like a shield. HR manager. Neutral smile. The kind you wear when you're about to ask a question you already think you know the answer to. Do you have a moment? She asked. Always, I said, rising smoothly. Mara's eyes flicked between us. I'll be right here, she said. Janet led me a short distance away, near a column where the music dulled just enough for uncomfortable conversations. I received a call earlier today, she said, voice careful. From someone who expressed concern about your behavior. Concern is popular tonight, I said. She didn't smile. They said you've been monitoring your wife, that you seem fixated. I nodded. Did they give examples? They implied you've been using your position to observe staff movements. That's my job, I said. Facilities oversight, schedules, access audits. I know, Janet said, but perception matters. Whose perception? I asked. She hesitated. That was answer enough. I haven't violated policy, I said evenly. And if someone believes I have, I'd be happy to review it with legal present. Janet studied me. She'd been doing this long enough to recognize when someone wasn't panicking. Just be careful tonight, she said finally. There are a lot of eyes. Yes, I said. I've noticed. She nodded and moved away. When I turned back, Lena was returning from the corridor. Her face was flushed. Her smile was fixed. She stopped when she saw me standing, then approached with exaggerated calm. Janet bothering you? She asked lightly. Just a check-in, I said. Her eyes narrowed slightly. About what? About concern, I said. It's going around. She laughed too fast again. Well, people love to talk. Yes, I said. They do. Her fingers brushed my arm. This time the touch felt like a test. Don't make this a thing, she whispered. I'm not, I said. Across the room, Gideon Knox watched us, and this time he didn't smile. Gideon didn't look away. That was new. Most men like him mastered the art of selective blindness. They ignored problems until someone else cleaned them up. Right now, though, his gaze stayed locked on mine with a curiosity that bordered on irritation, like he was reassessing a piece of furniture he'd assumed was bolted to the floor. Lena followed my line of sight and stiffened. Don't, she said under her breath. Please. Don't what? I asked again. Her jaw tightened. Don't stare at him like that. I took a slow sip of water. You're the one who said you were single. Her eyes flashed. I was joking. Of course, I said. Everyone laughed. She didn't like that answer. She turned away sharply and rejoined her friends, her laughter snapping back on like a switch. Tessa immediately leaned in, whispering something that made Lena roll her eyes theatrically. Bryn's phone was still out, always recording, always collecting material for later revisions of the truth. Mara rose from her chair. I need air, she said. You coming? In a minute, I said. She hesitated, then nodded and drifted toward the terrace doors. I stayed. The ballroom felt tighter now, louder. The music pressed against my skull. I let my eyes wander, cataloging without emotion. The security team rotated every 20 minutes, same pattern as always. Executive elevators on the east side were currently set to restricted access, as per gala protocol. The valet desk was understaffed because 2 temps had called out sick. Little things. Gideon finally moved. He crossed the room with unhurried confidence, stopping twice to shake hands, once to laugh at a joke that didn't reach his eyes. When he reached me, he didn't pretend this was accidental. Owen, he said warmly, like we were old friends. Enjoying the evening? Very much, I said. It's well organized. His smile flickered. We do our best. He glanced toward Lena, who was pretending very hard not to watch us. Your wife's quite the hit tonight. So I hear, I said. A beat passed, then another. Gideon leaned in just enough to lower his voice. You seem quiet. I've always been quiet. That's not what I meant. No, I agreed. It isn't. He straightened, the warmth draining from his expression. This environment can be overwhelming. If you ever feel like work and personal matters are colliding, my door is open. There it was, the offer wrapped in silk, the subtle suggestion that my life existed at his discretion. I'll keep that in mind, I said. His eyes sharpened. You should. He walked away before I could reply, already reassembling his public face. My radio buzzed again. This time, I looked. Facilities Channel 3. Need approval on executive floor lighting adjustment. Guest complaint. Executive floor. I didn't respond. Not yet. I drifted toward the side corridor instead, moving with the invisible ease of someone who belonged everywhere and nowhere. Halfway down, I heard voices. Lena's laugh. Lower, intimate. Gideon's voice answered, close enough that it slid under my skin. The door to the service lounge wasn't closed all the way. It never was during events. Staff traffic. Plausible deniability. I told you, Lena said. He won't do anything. He never does. You sure? Gideon replied. Yes, she said confidently. He needs this place. He needs me. I felt something cold settle in my chest. He looked at me tonight, Gideon said. Like he was thinking. Lena scoffed. That's just his face. A pause. After the festival, Gideon said, we make it official. HR's already primed. If he reacts badly, it only helps us. He won't, Lena said. And if he does, he'll look crazy. I stepped back silently, the way you do when you've heard enough to change the rest of your life. When I returned to the ballroom, Mara was waiting near the terrace doors, arms folded against the cold. You heard something? She said. Yes, I said. Enough. She searched my face. What are you going to do? I looked past her, through the glass, where the harbor lights shimmered like broken promises. Nothing, I said. She didn't believe me. She was right not to, because I'd just learned the timeline. And once you know when someone plans to erase you, the only real choice left is whether you disappear quietly, or you stay long enough to make sure they never forget you were there. The parking garage smelled like cold concrete and brake dust. I let the door close behind me and stood still for a second, letting my breathing even out. Up above, music and laughter continued like nothing had cracked. Like my wife hadn't just signed the first line of my execution in a service lounge with the door half open. People think betrayal is loud. Screaming, crying, slammed doors. They're wrong. Betrayal is quiet. It's plans made without you. It's decisions finalized before you even know you're on the agenda. I walked between rows of cars, my shoes echoing softly. I wasn't looking for Gideon, which meant I found him. He stood near his car, black, expensive, spotless, scrolling his phone with relaxed confidence. Lena was a few steps away, her back half turned to him, pretending to fix her heel strap while she talked. Their heads tilted toward each other in that unmistakable posture of people sharing something private. I didn't rush them. I stopped 3 cars away. Lena noticed me first. Her spine stiffened. Her hand froze mid-motion. Gideon followed her gaze and frowned, like a man annoyed by a stain he didn't remember putting there. Owen, he said too casually. Everything all right? I looked at Lena. You forgot your phone. Her eyes went wide. It was in my hand. She hadn't even realized she'd left it on the table near the service corridor. Shared account. Shared device. No hacking. No tricks. Just carelessness. The kind people develop when they think they're untouchable. Oh, she said quickly. Thanks. She reached for it. I didn't move. Gideon's smile thinned. We were just talking about work. Of course, I said. You do that a lot lately. Lena laughed nervously. Don't start. I'm not starting, I said. I'm finishing an errand. I handed her the phone. Her fingers brushed mine. They were cold. Gideon stepped closer. Not aggressive, strategic. Close enough to test the boundary. You seem tense, he said. These situations can be confusing. Only if you're lying, I said. A beat. Lena inhaled sharply. Owen, stop. I turned to Gideon. You should be careful. He raised an eyebrow. About what? About assuming silence means weakness. For the first time, his confidence slipped. Just a hairline fracture. Then it was gone. Well, he said lightly, stepping back. Enjoy the rest of the evening. They left together, not touching, didn't need to. I stayed in the garage until my pulse slowed. Then my phone buzzed. Janet Crowell, HR. We need to talk tomorrow morning. 9 a.m. My office. I stared at the message. Tomorrow. They weren't waiting. They were accelerating. Sleep didn't come. Instead, memories did. Small ones, useless ones. Lena's laugh the first year we were married. The way she used to sit on the counter while I cooked, pretending she wasn't hungry. All the little versions of her that had quietly expired while I was busy maintaining a life she no longer wanted. By morning, I was calm. That scared me more than the anger. Janet's office smelled like lemon cleaner and professionalism. She closed the door carefully behind me, as if sound itself might be a liability. "Owen," she said, sitting, "this won't take long." "That's rarely true," I said. She folded her hands. "We've received concerns about your mental state, about boundaries." "From Gideon Knox," I said. Her eyes flickered. "And my wife," I added. Janet sighed. "They didn't phrase it that way." "Of course not." She slid a paper across the desk. A formal notice, performance review pending, temporary access restrictions, executive floors, sensitive areas. They were cutting me off from my own bloodstream. "I haven't violated policy," I said. "No," Janet agreed, "but perception matters," I finished. "Yes, you mentioned that last night." She hesitated. "I suggest you take a few days, clear your head. And if I don't?" Her voice softened. "Then this becomes complicated." I stood. "Then I'll document everything." Her lips pressed together. She didn't argue. That told me everything. By noon, my access badge no longer opened certain doors. By evening, Lena hadn't come home. She texted once, "Staying with friends. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." I stared at the message. Harder for whom? I opened our shared cloud account. Nothing illegal, nothing hidden. Just receipts, schedules, calendar syncs she'd forgotten to turn off. Patterns emerged, late meetings, repeating numbers, a penthouse reservation tied to Gideon's name, "Do not itemize." I leaned back in my chair and laughed quietly. They weren't just cheating. They were planning my removal. And the thing about men like Gideon Knox, about women like Lena, they assume the underdog will beg. They forget what happens when the underdog starts keeping records. By the time the sun came up, I had stopped feeling like a husband. That sounds dramatic. It isn't. It's mechanical. Like realizing a machine you've been maintaining for years no longer serves its original function, and deciding whether to shut it down or repurpose it. I showered, dressed, and drove back toward Greyhaven, not to beg for my job, not to confront anyone, but to observe. Observation was still allowed. For now. The Winter Light Festival banners were going up along the harbor walk. Crews worked in reflective vests, stringing cables, testing generators. The town was preparing for its favorite ritual, pretending it was generous while quietly keeping score. I stopped at the marina office. Cal Rusk sat behind the counter with his usual expression of permanent disappointment in humanity. He looked up, saw me, and grunted. "You look like hell," he said. "Maintenance life," I replied. He snorted. "What do you need?" "Nothing official," I said. "Just wondering if you've seen Gideon Knox around lately." Cal's mouth twisted. "Hard not to. Man parks wherever he wants. Thinks rules are a suggestion. Still doing that?" "Yesterday. This morning, too. Left his car overnight in the restricted lane." I nodded, filed it away. "Anyone complain?" Cal laughed. Couple of donors. Said it looked arrogant. That was useful. I thanked him and left. On my way back, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number, but I recognized the cadence immediately. "You don't need to be doing this." "Lena," I typed back. "Doing what?" 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. "Watching, following, you're proving my point." I smiled. I'm at work, I replied. You should try it sometime. No response. By noon, I had confirmation of what I already suspected. Gideon's schedule was a mess of donor lunches, board check-ins, and one very public appearance planned for the festival's opening night. He needed that event, needed the photos, needed to look untouchable. So I touched the one thing he thought was invisible. That evening, just after sunset, Gideon's car sat alone in the marina lot again, angled like it owned the place. No cameras directly overhead, maintenance blind spot, well documented. I didn't rush, I didn't vandalize. I knelt, worked quickly, cleanly. 4 valve cores removed, pocketed. Tires slumped slowly, quietly, like the car itself was embarrassed. Safe, no damage, no danger. I stood, brushed off my hands and walked away. 10 minutes later, shouting. Not screaming, indignation. The sound of a man who had never been inconvenienced in public before. Phones came out. Someone laughed. Someone else whispered. I didn't watch for long. My phone buzzed as I reached my car. Gideon, what the hell is wrong with you? I replied after a moment. You should check where you park. Seconds passed. Then, this isn't over. I looked out at the harbor lights and typed back. I know. The first real crack came the next day. Not from Gideon. From Lena. She showed up at the maintenance apartment just after dusk, standing in the doorway like she was visiting a stranger. No suitcase, no apology, just anger sharpened into something defensive. You humiliated him, she said without preamble. I inconvenienced him, I said. Humiliation is what you did to me. Her eyes flashed. You're acting insane. Careful, I said. That's the word you already used with HR. She froze. I stepped aside so she could come in. She didn't. You think you're being clever, she said. But you're alone in this. People believe me. People believe the version of you that benefits them, I said. That's not the same thing. She laughed bitterly. You don't have proof. I tilted my head. Do you want to test that? Her phone buzzed in her hand. She glanced down. Her face changed. Fear. Real fear this time. Stay away from him, she said. If you push this, he'll destroy you. I stepped closer. Not threatening. Just present. He already tried, I said quietly. That's why this ends badly. For you, she snapped. I shook my head. For whoever needs the crowd. She left without another word. 2 hours later, someone tried to get into my apartment. Not subtle, not careful, wrong keycard, wrong timing. The hallway camera caught it all, a man I didn't recognize, hood up, looking around too much. He tugged the handle once, twice, then swore and walked away fast. I watched the footage twice, then I forwarded it, to myself, to my personal cloud, and to a contact I trusted. Mara. She called immediately. That wasn't random, she said. No, I agreed. It was a message. What are you going to do? I looked at the festival schedule on my wall, the opening night, the donors, the speeches. I'm going to answer it, I said. And for the first time, I felt something close to anticipation. The night of the Winter Light Festival arrived wrapped in fog. Greyhaven loved drama like it loved tradition, quietly, with plausible deniability. The harbor lights cut pale tunnels through the mist. Music drifted from hidden speakers. Donors arrived in coats that cost more than my first year's salary, smiling like they were part of something benevolent instead of predatory. I walked in through a side entrance, not hiding, not sneaking, belonging. My badge still worked for general access. They hadn't thought to revoke that. People always forget the difference between power and infrastructure. I could feel it in the air, the tension before a storm that everyone pretends is just weather. Staff moved faster than usual. Security whispered into earpieces. Someone important was late. Someone else was nervous. Lena stood near the center of it all, radiant, composed, rehearsed. She wore white tonight, a choice, clean, untouchable. She laughed easily, her hand resting lightly on Gideon's arm, as if it were the most natural place in the world. When she saw me, her smile faltered. Not fear, calculation. She leaned in toward Gideon, whispered something. His jaw tightened. He scanned the room, spotted me, and his eyes hardened into something colder than confidence. Good. I took a seat near the back, half shadow, half light, close enough to hear, far enough to watch. Mara slipped into the chair beside me without a word. "You sure?" she asked quietly. "No," I said. "But I'm done pretending." She nodded once, that was all. The MC stepped up. Applause. Speeches about community, resilience, generosity, words designed to mean everything and nothing at once. Then Gideon was introduced. He rose to a standing ovation. Of course he did. He walked to the stage like a man walking into a mirror, already admiring his reflection. He thanked the donors, the board, the town. He spoke about leadership and integrity, like they were accessories he'd put on for the evening. As he talked, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. "You think this ends well for you?" I didn't answer. Gideon reached the part of the speech where he was supposed to announce a new chapter for the hotel group. Promotions, restructuring, futures rewritten. He smiled. And that's when Janet Crowell stood up. HR never stands during speeches. The room shifted. A ripple of confusion passed through the crowd. Janet didn't go to the stage. She spoke from where she was, voice amplified just enough. "There's been a development," she said, "relevant to our governance and donor transparency obligations." Gideon's smile froze. Janet continued. "Given the public nature of this event and the immediate reputational risk, the board has requested clarification before proceeding." Murmurs. Phones came out. Gideon turned, searching the room like he was looking for the exit in a burning building. His eyes found me. I didn't smile. Janet gestured. "Mr. Knox, perhaps you'd like to address the conflict of interest concerns that were formally documented this afternoon." Conflict of interest. The words landed like broken glass. Lena's hand slipped from Gideon's arm. He laughed once, sharp and brittle. "This is highly inappropriate." "Actually," Janet said calmly, "what's inappropriate is attempting to preemptively frame an employee as unstable while engaging in an undisclosed relationship that directly violates your contract." Silence. Someone in the front row gasped. Gideon turned fully now, scanning faces, realizing something essential had shifted. That this wasn't a rumor. This wasn't gossip. This was procedural. "This is absurd," he said. "Where is this coming from?" Janet didn't answer. Mara stood up. Every head turned. "I can answer that," she said. Her voice didn't shake. "I witnessed the relationship. I witnessed the planning. I witnessed the intent to remove my brother-in-law from his job to protect this man's image." Lena spun toward her. "Mara, shut up." Mara looked at her sister for a long moment. "No," she said. "I'm done covering for you." Lena's face went white. Gideon stepped back from the podium. "This is a family dispute being weaponized against the wrong person," I said. My voice carried farther than I expected. I stood, every eye locked onto me now. "I didn't report anything," I continued evenly. "I didn't leak anything. I didn't sabotage anything." I paused. I documented. A murmur spread. Recognition. That word meant something here. Janet nodded. "The documentation includes timelines, shared account records, eyewitness statements, and an internal complaint trail that predates this event." Gideon's phone buzzed in his hand. Once, twice. He didn't look at it. Security approached the stage. Not aggressively, just enough to change the geometry of the room. "This is over," Gideon snapped. "You can't do this to me." Janet's voice stayed calm. "We're not. You did." Lena's breath came fast now. She laughed. Once, hysterical. "This is insane. He's doing this because I left him." I met her eyes. "You announced you were single," I said. "I believed you." That was the moment the room turned, not loudly, not all at once, but permanently. Gideon tried to step off the stage. His phone slipped from his hand and skidded across the polished floor. He didn't chase it. He couldn't. Because outside, through the glass walls facing the marina, headlights flashed. A tow truck. His car, still immobilized from the earlier inconvenience, was being loaded in full view of the donors, the board, the press. Someone laughed. Someone filmed. Gideon sagged, just slightly, like a man realizing the ground no longer recognized him. Lena looked around wildly, searching for an ally, a smile, a script. None came. Security took Gideon gently by the arm. "Mr. Knox," one of them said, "we need to escort you out." "This is a mistake," he said hoarsely. I leaned in close as they passed me. "No," I said quietly. "This is the record." They walked him away. Lena stood alone on the stage, white dress glowing under the lights, finally visible without the man she'd borrowed power from. She looked at me. Hatred, fear, something like regret, arriving far too late. "This isn't over," she whispered. I shook my head. "It is," I said. Behind her the crowd buzzed, hungry, alive, already rewriting the story without her permission. The lights reflected off the harbor like shattered glass, and for the first time all night, I felt nothing at all.